Good evening for those in Africa and Europe. Good morning for those in US, Canada, or good day wherever you are joining from. We just want to go through this career path called governance, risk, and compliance. It's a very interesting area, and it's not just it's an area that doesn't just cut to one particular department. It cuts across the entire organization, and this is the department that keeps an organization out of trouble. So whether you are actively involved or indirectly involved, you get to play a part. So whether you're in sales, whether you're in marketing, whether you're an ordinary employee, you have a part to play in GRC. Actually, there are people who it's their day-to-day job, and we would kind of have a look on who those people are. So let's just proceed as God would help us. So now I will just give a little bit intro about mentor partners and why who we are, so as to help us put a face to what today's engagement is about. So we are a training and coaching organization, but we do ask quite differently because our focus is majorly on how do we help people to grow their experience? How do we close the gap that the job market is actually asking for? How do we help people work on projects that are solving real problems? And how do we help them expand their confidence, not just to get the job, but to perform on the job? And then we do this via partnership with seasoned professionals who are already in the field. We also tend to add students to international organizations who they then have to work with senior managers who would guide and mentor them. We do also have like a job support program for those who have gotten jobs and they need a kind of support so as to cross that initial teaching stage to become quite strengthened on the role. Now, we have a very large student portfolio reach. I think over 600 people have already been mentored. However, over 100 of them have been from previous training organizations who initially got trained and then they did not get whatever it is they wanted. We had to do the retraining. There's something we do which is creating a tailor-made plan for every student who comes to us. It's more like sitting down with you. It's not just about going through a training, it's not just about getting experience. How does this play or how does this apply to where I'm going to? What's the roadmap? What's the path? Like if I finish, which kind of company should I be looking to apply for jobs? And even if I get a job, how do I grow from there? Most people just get jobs and then continue in that job. I've seen people do one particular thing for 10 years, for 20 years, stay within a particular earning bracket, and they just don't know where should they move from here. So this is why it's not just about the training. We have to kind of create that career path or career roadmap for you. And then in terms of gains and benefits, like I said, it's more focused on the real work itself rather than just things we theoretically learn. Now let's look at GRC. GRC actually stands for governance, risk, and compliance. I'll be having somebody also who is in the background who is actually a data privacy expert who, in case he's a GRC and data privacy expert, if there are questions, he's happy to answer. And we're also happy to speak with anyone during the free consultation session, which will happen once you are happy to book a call. So these GRC here, it's more like an integrated approach that helps organizations to align whatever objective they have with risk management and compliance requirements. So you could have a very fantastic objective, you could have a very fantastic or very great strategy to do something, but the question to ask is, what's the risk involved to get this thing done? Are we in line with government or legal or regulatory bodies just to be sure that we are not stepping on toes? So every company has this GRC department who is spread across several departments. It could be GRC in line with IT, you have GRC in line with marketing, you have GRC. So sometimes this GRC is a separate department reporting directly to the CEO that has an eye on every department within the organization. So it ensures that the company actually provides enough justification to everybody, not just internally, but also externally, that we are doing everything in line with ethics. We are reducing our risks. We are complying with laws and regulations locally and globally. So no company wants to be found that they are breaking a particular law, or no company want to expose as much customer data as more than they should, so that they don't breach data privacy or expose some trade secrets that could actually put them at a very bad spot with their competitors. So this is why this GRC role has become a very, very great role within both technology and non-technology driven organizations. Let's say I want to do project management, I want to do data analysis, I want to do cloud engineering. There are so many things, but actually one of the easiest aspect to go into is we would have a look into the different roles. So I'm happy to discuss also with the help of the expert person here, just to, if we do have one or two more questions. So let's look at the high level definition. So we mentioned that there's governance, there is risk, and there's compliance. So what's governance? Governance talks about who is in charge, like who is in charge here, who is leading this team, who, because definitely somebody has to champion whatever strategy that we would use to keep the company safe. So who is in charge? What are their roles? Who is accountable for what? Governance looks at appointing a chief information security officer or chief risk officer or something like that. Governance looks at defining the data ownership. Who owns data? Who can have access to which data? I work in an organization that we do have about 4 to 5 data and file categorization. So there is confidential, there is I think you have confidential, you have general, you have public, you have, I've forgotten the last one. So these are how we measure, document, and who should see them and where should they be sent to. All these are part of GRC framework within the organization to keep us well safe. So GRC is not just about bureaucracy or like let us do things the way we want to do them. No, it's about providing clarity to everyone to ensure that they follow the rule set by the given organization. So risk management looks at what could actually go wrong, and if it does happen, how bad will it hurt the organization? Imagine a top organizations like Guinness dropping in their quality, or let's say somebody buys a product from them and to find out that there's something inside. Now, or a top organization like Google, or a top organization, whichever, it doesn't have to do with IT organization. Even non-IT organization need to be compliant. Now, if for those who work in the banking space, there are rules set down by either by CBN or by some apex body within banking. For those in telecoms, you have regulatory bodies. For those in legal, you have regulatory bodies. You also have regulatory bodies within and outside your particular local space. So these are things that we need to pay attention. Are we breaking any law? Now, and if we are, how well can we restructure ourselves? Now, the aim is to prevent us from breaking the law. Risk management is like trying to keep the organization at peace, reducing anything that could potentially make them fall out of the framework that they have put in place. Then compliance is what happens if we ignore the rule. So it's like it's not just putting down a checklist to say these and these and these, this person is compliant, this person is not compliant. No, it is actually what we put as a proof that our organization is actually following the framework. Governance sets up the framework. Risk management tries to ensure that we don't go out of, ensure that we are, nothing bad is happening to us. So we are preventing bad things from happening. Compliance ensure that we follow it. If we're looking at quality, we have things like quality assurance, quality control, all of those things. So risk is to prevent. Compliance is to ensure that we are following whatever we have put to avoid any lawsuit or fines or reputational damage, because some of these things are bigger than money itself. Now, let's do a little case study. So we're going to look at two companies. Company A is a company that actually does not have GRC in place, and company B is a company that has GRC. So company A without GRC, they are prone to suffer several things. Now, a phishing attack that could leak customer data, or something that could lead them into regulatory fines, or something that could lead them to lose stock, or something that could shift almost all their customers from their sales reach to another, to their potential competitor, something like that. So GRC is to ensure that the company is protected. We're not breaking any regulatory laws. We're not doing anything that could make us lose money. We're not doing anything that could make us lose our customers, because customers are the easiest people to lose, and then they are the hardest people to keep. So anything you can do to keep them, because they can easily change their mind. You're not the only person making mobile phones. You're not the only person selling a particular product. So GRC ensures that every department in the organization is in line with everything that will make them stay safe and remain safe. Now, a company B is a company that has GRC framework or GRC role or GRC organization within their overall organization. So this is an organization that actually, so there is governance to assign accountability. There is training of all the staff members to follow this rule. There is risk management that will flag any phishing attempts. There is compliance to ensure data encryption. There are strategies to identify attack well ahead of time, and then they are keeping the company 80 to 90% away from damage. I wouldn't say 100%, because definitely we do not know what goes through the mind of people, but they try to force and ensure that everybody follows the rule. If not, the company is going to be at pace. You are as strong, how do they put it? Is it that you are as weak as your weakest link or something like that? So if the company says no YouTube, maybe because they've suffered an attack from somebody watching a YouTube video using the company account or using the company internet, and the company says no YouTube, and then it's not just about saying no YouTube, right? There must be framework in place to ensure that we block every URL attempt on YouTube. And then we must have things in place that monitors the traffic to watch out for that particular, this is within office hours. Maybe you could do outside of office hours, or maybe it's prohibited all through. We do not know. But the point is, if there are rules, those rules have to be followed, because the reason for those rules are to keep the company safe and sound. Now, let's look at what are the requirements if I really want to go into this GRC space. So you need a kind of foundational knowledge, and this foundational knowledge are things like basic IT. Like, you cannot just come into GRC if you don't have basic. Nobody's saying you should be a master of IT, but at least basic IT. Do you know how to use your Microsoft Word, Excel? You can present with PowerPoint, or you could use Google Spreadsheets. You can actually document findings. Like, you could use basic tools and you could interact. So if you do not know how to use that at all, it's going to be a bit of challenge. But for me, I think if you're watching this video or you join this webinar, at least you do have a bit of that IT experience. Now, another thing is understanding the fundamentals of GRC, which we call GRC concept. So you need to be risk aware. You need to understand some things about compliance. You need to know about policy management. I know we may not know that now, but this webinar is just to help us understand what this whole thing is about. Another aspect we would look at is what are the skills requirements. So what are the skills requirements if I want to go into GRC? So one of them is I have to be what we call analytical and problem solving, because GRC looks at the only way we can find problem is to analyze, and the only way we can solve those problems is actually to use problem solving skill. So it's a combination of analyzing and problem solving, and problems are actually coming from what we call risk. A risk is the potential that something good or bad may happen, and if it is bad, it's called a threat. If it is good, it's called an opportunity. So we want to explore opportunities, but we want to minimize the threats. If I ask, has any one of us, maybe in where we work, done anything around risk before? Like whether from a sales point of view, maybe you were foreseeing that, oh, there will be scarcity of this, and then you decided to do this. It doesn't really have to do with something around GRC, but it's like sales, like business development, might be marketing, it could be project management, it could be anything. It could even be your normal day-to-day life. As long as you're able to foresee that something good is going to happen and you exploited it, or you foresaw that something bad was going to happen and you mitigated it, at least you have that bit of risk management. It's just that you would need to approach it a bit different if you're looking at it from a GRC point of view. Because what I would overlook if I was not a GRC person, if I happen to work in GRC, I cannot overlook it. So it's like, I want to ask a question here. If you're driving a bike and you're hearing some sound on the wheel, I would love to hear answer either on the chat space, or you could unmute and answer. If you're hearing a sound from the wheel of a motorcycle or a bike, versus you're about to take a plane from, let's say, Nigeria, or let's say from US to Qatar, and as you were about to board into the plane, you were hearing some sound by the wheel. Now, I want to ask a question. Which of these two sounds would be bloody if it happens to affect these two vehicles?
The plane.
Why?
For the bike, my way of analyzing this is that for the bike, you're on the ground level, so you could actually just park somewhere and maybe probably take it to a repairer or someone who could check it up, to know what could be the problem. For the plane that is on a very above the ground level, the possibility of parking somewhere is not there. So you have to just look for the next available airport. If you cannot identify anyone, it means that the crash will be disastrous. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So what if I watched a very funny skit, right, that actually influenced this question. So the plane was about to take off. In fact, before a plane takes off, it has to go at a very high speed on the runway, then it will take off. As it was about to, it has actually gone that initial speed, and then as it was about to take off, the tires, instead of going inside, actually just pulled out. So you just know that there's no landing for this, because how can you land? So reason I asked this question is the way we would approach risk in just my department or anywhere is different from the way a GRC person will approach risk. So a GRC person will approach risk as though from an aeroplane point of view. Aeroplane is the safest, and then aeroplane is actually the riskiest, if there's any English word like that. So it's the safest, it's the fastest, but it's also the riskiest. Is it riskiest or has the most risk? For choice of a better word. Now, the motorbike is the simplest. I don't like is simpler. The risk is less, because definitely if I want to, if I'm driving that motorbike and something happens, as long as I have my helmet on, I have my chain, I have this. Even if it throws me out, I can land, but my head is protected, my arms are protected. But how do you survive an air, like, not you? How do they survive the air crash if you can't land? Same thing. Any small thing, as small as, I could remember I ordered something, and then there was a company that was supposed to forward. Ordered something from Nigeria. What, I can't really say the amount. And then this company was supposed to, it arrived London, and then they were supposed to ship it down to my place. And then there were two items. So the first one came, but the second one got lost. Now the second one was almost 3 or 4 times more expensive than the first one. And then that's how we were dragging, like, where is it? Where is that? Oh, we are checking, like, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 2 months. And I was like, God, if I decide to do what every other person does, which is go online and rant, I'm justified. But another thing is, I wanted to do that, but then I had a check on the inside of me to say, see, I don't want you to do that. Like, just let it go. It pained me because definitely, I had to pay excess luggage from Nigeria. Then got here, I had to also pay. When I looked at all of those things, plus what was lost. But my point is, if it happened with another person and they go online and then tag, even if you delete, even if the company goes back to help you search the whole of the place and they restore your bag, that's 1 minute or 1 day or 2 days of you dropping a message that this is what has happened to me, has brought a lot of reputational damage, which will make some people are very quick. They don't even read the whole of the message. They just want to hear, they are just looking for who will validate that this company is bad. So this is why GRC pays as much attention to risk management. So we need to pay attention to details and keep an eye on all the rules that have been set. So in terms of software, like I mentioned, there are actually some GRC platforms that's like the Archer, the ServiceNow. I know some of us must have heard ServiceNow because ServiceNow has a lot of branches. You have the IT support side, you have the ticket management, and the rest. And then it's not just about these complex tools. We also have the basic IT tool, which is like Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, and the likes. Now, all of these things are very impossible without communication and stakeholder management, because this is what ties everything. You have to communicate this rule. If I do not know that this is a rule, then it means if I'm breaking it, I'm justified. But those rules has to be communicated so that everyone would understand that company does not do it like this. Company does not. This is the company standard. This is our rule. This is our policy. There's no one way. There's nothing like, oh, police can follow one way, but citizens cannot. No, if it's a rule, it's a rule. If it's a rule that red light means stop, except for ambulances and extreme emergency events, every other person has to stop. Let's have a look at some of the roles. You have things like a risk manager, a GRC analyst, a compliance officer, a cybersecurity risk specialist, an internal auditor, a data privacy, a document control person. Now, all of these things are led by a chief information security officer or a chief risk officer. So I don't know if any of us has worked in any of these roles before now, but then these are some of the basic rules within GRC. Now, there's an aspect of GRC that looks at fraud. That's under the same risk management. Sometimes they call them risk managers. Sometimes, if it's financial risk, those will be looking at fraud management. So GRC has a part to play even in government. There's an election. How are we ensure that the electorate, political aspirants are in compliance with the rules of the election? What's the constitution or what? So it's just that it's not just about the governing body setting the rule or the risk people trying to see that there are no mishaps. The compliance people need to enforce and ensure that these things are in place, because you can spend thousands and thousands of, or hundreds and hundreds of dollars and pounds to set up things. Another thing is to drive the adoption. These key people, their major work, like I said, is to manage business risk, ensure compliance, and then uphold ethical corporate governance standards. They don't have any other work. They might have different roles and responsibility, but their collectiveness, their collective job is to ensure that we keep the risk factor of the organization very low. We ensure that staff and vendors who work with us and suppliers and all of that, they are aligned with the laws. And then some people have to uphold. I did work in an organization one time that anything that enters your laptop you cannot transfer it out. You can only send it by email, and that email is being tracked or monitored. If you install any application on your laptop, you cannot uninstall it. So these are some of their GRC's rules that they have put, and we were told during the onboarding, or is it onboarding or induction, so that you won't say, oh, I've installed. This is their way of trying to ensure that all the organizational assets are actually safe, because definitely, in as much as, yes, the organizations pay you, it's not their duty to trust you. They have to put things in place to keep the organization safe, because people come in, people go, but then the organization will still remain. Now, quickly, I will just talk about, so before I speak about the roadmap, I don't know if we'll have any questions so far, or anybody, any contribution, any question, any contribution. Okay, so I would proceed. I want to assume that to some extent, we do have an understanding of, some of us might really have come into this webinar. What exactly is GRC? What is GRC? I keep hearing GRC. You could actually transition from whatever you are doing into GRC. You could say, okay, I'm currently in sales. I want to focus on risk management, or I want to be a GRC analyst. GRC analysts are people whose sole responsibility is to support risk assessments, they monitor they monitor regulatory changes, they ensure compliance with policies. These are ideal for people who are looking to transition into GRC for the first time. So if you want to kickstart your career in risk and compliance, being a GRC analyst might be a good start for you. Now, risk managers are people who their job is to identify, assess, and mitigate potential risk. Now, they work closely with senior leadership to develop more like a robust risk management strategy or risk management framework. So framework will say, this is how we manage risk as an organization. You identify it, you assess it, you then evaluate it to know, okay, what's the likelihood of it happening? And if it happens, what's the impact? And then you then create a response plan. The response plan is to mitigate it. But if it's something that cannot be mitigated, we create a contingency plan, which is like what we do in case it happens. And then we assign somebody who is going to be like a risk owner to ensure that that risk does not happen. So that is the job of a risk manager. For a compliance officer, they are more like police. They are police within the organization, executioners, or they execute the law. They conduct audits, employee training, regulatory reporting to ensure that we actually follow whatever policy the organization has put. And they will keep reminding us of laws and industry standards and internal policies. Once in a while, where I work, like every 6 months, there's a training on compliance, a training to remind us of BCGs, of business continuity. I've forgotten the full meaning. Is it business compliance or something like that? So it's just to keep reminding us that this is this, this is this, this is this. Now, cybersecurity risk specialists are kind of people who focus on identifying, assessing, and mitigating cyber threats. Now, cyber threats in organization has increased almost 60 to 70% because organizations are trying to prevent losses and people are trying to gain advantage. There is a saying, I don't have any data to back it, but people move from one organization to another organization to study whatever it is, and then like it's becoming very, very difficult these days. So what organizations are doing now is, how do we hire cybersecurity engineers, cybersecurity specialists to help us identify any loopholes, conduct penetration testing on our URLs, conduct penetration testing on our servers, on our applications, try to also check if we have some network ports that are left unattended to, try to see the strength of our Wi-Fi network, like do a full round check to just strengthen our cyber presence and prevent any form of data breach. Internal auditors are constantly checking to ensure that whatever framework we have put, whatever regulations we have put, people are complying to it, and they are reporting to the senior management. So for those who have worked in PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, these big fours do send out external auditors who go to audit accounts, right? But then within every organization, there are internal auditors. So the aim is to ensure that whatever has been internally audited kind of match what is externally audited. So the external auditor will actually work with or audit whatever it is that has been done, or they could do it independently, and the senior management to kind of measure the results. A data privacy person is to ensure that data only goes to who it ought to go and when it needs to go. Document control works closely to ensure that every document is tagged, documents are stored, documents can be retrieved, documents are archived when. So that is some of these jobs pay very high, and it's not really that they require so much, maybe apart from cybersecurity risk specialists that require a bit of technical ability. Being a GRC analyst or compliance officer or internal auditor or data privacy do not require as much technical depth. So some people are looking, what can I do? How do I transition? Where can I go? As simple as being a document control person, all the documentations of the organization, you look at how it is stored, how it can be retrieved. You're helping to manage SharePoint or Google Drive or OneBox or whatever it is. So quickly, I'll just go through how the transitioning journey looks like. So it's more like stage one. We kind of let and ask, okay, if anyone is interested, we could sit down, have a free consultation to say, okay, this is what you've done so far. This is what you're doing currently. This is what you intend to do. We could actually also look at all the roles and try to find, okay, which one fits where you're going to. And then you could decide to say, okay, I think based on my experience, based on my background in this, I would love to go more into risk management, or I could love to be a compliance officer. The UK is currently employing 5,000 tax compliance officers who would go and just look at ensuring that organizations are, whether small or medium or large scale organizations, are compliant with the tax regulations. Now, this is still part of GRC. Now, organizations are still recruiting risk managers to ensure that, globally or holistically, help us to find out whatever could be a threat. It could be threat of losing customers. It could be threat of losing employees. It could be threat of losing our integrity, losing our reputation. It could be whatever it is. These guys' job is to identify, assess, evaluate, and come up with strategies to reduce them, to prevent them from even happening. So after this consultation clinic, we go into the next stage, which is like sitting down with you to plan out your career. Now, this is more like doing a market analysis and then doing a career roadmap plan. This career roadmap plan will help us to say, okay, if I start this journey now, where is it going to take? Like, where does it lead? Where can I apply for job? If I'm looking to apply for job remotely, what is the roadmap? If I'm looking to relocate in the next 1 year, but I intend to start working locally from where I am, what is the roadmap? So no two persons have the same roadmap. So, but then you'll be sitting down with somebody within that particular field to help map out a very structured roadmap. Then stage 3 is where the training and the mentorship happens. And then this can either be 6 weeks or 12. 6 is majorly for somebody who already has GRC background, or not GRC, you have good enough foundational background, you could actually go through the program in 6 weeks, which is the training and the mentorship. But for somebody who is starting this journey, to give enough of time, the person would actually be doing this for about 12 weeks. Now, these 12 weeks is just to ensure that all the necessary foundation plus the training plus the mentorship and internship is done within that 12 weeks program. 2 weeks before completion, we do a pre-market analysis and see how ready are you for the market. What are some of the gaps that you still have? What are the fears? What are the pain points? Aside the pain point that was gathered at the initial consultation, then we start preparing the person for the job market. 1 week before the completion, we kind of start introducing students to our alumni network for those who are already working within GRC space, so as to get some help. This help could be, how do we apply for job? Where should I look out? Or you could get a help from even interview preparation or whatever it is. So the alumni community is just to help, because if you have been, there's this saying that when you get to the top, don't forget to send down the ladder. So it's more like helping those who want to find their feet. So after this 1 week, the program actually is completed, and then the post-learning development continues while the person is looking to apply for job. So this is high level how this roadmap, kind of the learning roadmap, is going to look like, either going through the 6 weeks or going through the 12 weeks. So I do hope that I was able to help us to have a little bit of insight into what this GRC role is about. And why don't we take a first step to say, okay, well, could I book a free consultation? Can I speak to somebody? Can we look at, I don't know which one really fits me. I don't know if this is what I would want to do. There's no harm. It's just to speak to somebody and say, okay, I'm coming from this background. I am not very sure, but please, can I have somebody look at what I've done and try to guide me to say, okay, this is where they think will be best. I spoke to somebody yesterday, and she was a fashion designer, and she wants to do something around analysis because she wants to transition into the tech space. And then we had business analysis, data analysis, all the necessary stuff. We had to expound to say, this is the role of this, these are the skills required, these are the places they can apply, this is the role, this is this, this is that, this is where you're coming from. With what you have done so far, it aligns more to this than this. However, it doesn't mean you can't scale up to this one. It simply means you would have to do a little bit extra, and this is how we can help, and this is where you have to do your part. So all of these things happens in the free consultation session. So it would be good if you can take the advantage and then discuss. So the career planning or the career roadmap session, we can't do a career roadmap until we definitely know which particular path you are looking to go into. There has to be more like an initial commitment for that. I think if you come to the consultation session, I think the team will discuss with you what it's going to take. It doesn't bite, it doesn't cut the neck, don't worry. So, but I want to release us. I know this is 8 p.m. Nigeria time, this 7 p.m. UK time. I do hope that we found this very insightful, and please do well to drop us a feedback on any of the social media channels. Also do well to comment. Most importantly, take advantage. Let's have a discussion on the consultation session. So the recording will be sent. So you'll get, I think, once the team prepares the recording, it will be sent to you as well. For the slides, I'll need to check with the team. If they ask me to send, definitely to be sent alongside the email. But if not, definitely you will get the recording. So to schedule for the consultation, I think if you go to the site, I think the moment you get to the landing page, you would see book a free consultation. Then you click that, it takes you to where you select your preferred day and time. So choose a time that suits you, provide the initial information you could provide, and then we can we can actually take it forward from there. All right. I don't know if anybody has any other question, but if not, I want to release us. That is all from my side here. I want to thank you for giving me your Saturday, and God bless.